I went to do my weekly grocery shopping, and tell me why a diet of rice and beans plus some grocery bags just cost me $80.
I have never in my life had to take out a loan for the things that my home needs.
Do you remember the last time you bought bread without looking at the price? In 1933, long lines of Americans stood waiting for a bowl of soup in the middle of winter. Nearly 100 years later, that item is still around, only now it's in a modern supermarket, under neon lights and the sound of barcode scanners. A gallon of milk is now $6.05, eggs are $4.60, and your salary only increased by 4%. Every week, 1 in 4 American households skips a meal at least once, not because they want to diet, but because they can no longer afford to eat enough. And the scariest part, this is no longer a matter for the poor. The middle class, retirees, and even factory workers are all reliving a silent version of the Great Depression. The Great Depression never disappeared. It was just renamed to grocery bill. Today we'll visit 5 states where the shopping cart became a symbol of despair. And that might make you wonder, is my refrigerator next? California. The land of sunshine, hope, and the American dream is bathed in a warm golden hue. But in 2025, that sunshine will no longer warm the refrigerators of millions of people that are gradually becoming empty. A gallon of milk in Los Angeles now costs $6.80, more expensive than a gallon of gasoline in most other states. An organic avocado, $3.50, almost the price of a McMuffin breakfast. And the irony is, in the very place where that avocado is grown, the farmer doesn't have enough money to buy it. According to the FAO, global food prices in 2025 will be 30% higher than before the pandemic. In California, fresh produce alone increased by 18% in just 1 year, following consecutive floods and droughts, a double blow from nature and humans. Notably, the Central Valley Agricultural Center, which supplies a quarter of the nation's food, has now become cracked land interspersed with mud. When a tomato field is a complete loss, the price of pizza in Los Angeles goes up by. When a truckload of vegetables from Fresno to San Francisco has to pay 30% higher shipping fees, the final buyer, which is you, almost has to bear the entire cost. But the real reason isn't just natural disasters. California seems to be paying the price for a fragile supply chain and a system that believes everything can increase in price forever. The so-called free market now resembles an underground auction where the rich buy organic and the poor buy canned goods. In Fresno, retirees living on benefits say they have to choose between milk and heart medication. A couple in Bakersfield said they eat ramen 3 meals a day, jokingly calling it the California diet, laughing through the pain. Because it's not a joke. The Whole Foods supermarket chain is now humorously called Whole Paycheck 2.0, where you spend your entire monthly salary just to live clean. The average shopping cart increased by an additional 5, but no one dared to complain because it wouldn't do any good to say anything. They say California is the state of dreams. But ask yourself, what dreams still hold meaning when workers have to swipe their credit cards to buy bread? A gallon of milk is not just milk. It's a measure of the middle class's patience. From the outside, California still shines with sunlight, but people's refrigerators are pitch black. The neon lights in the supermarket couldn't hide the truth. This wasn't just a price crisis, but a crisis of dignity. What do you think? Is this the natural consequence of the global economy? Or is it evidence that the American dream has become too expensive to maintain? And if even the most agriculturally rich state in the US doesn't have enough to eat, what awaits those places where nothing can be grown? Let's move on to the next state story to see the answer more clearly. Leaving California, let's head to Texas, the land of barbecue, cowboys, and freedom, where people believe that every problem can be solved with a BBQ and a cold beer. But in 2025, Texans are discovering freedom can't be bought with a credit card. In Dallas, a pound of beef now costs over $9, double the price just 3 years ago. And if you like to grill ribs every weekend, think carefully. A BBQ for 6 people can cost nearly $80, not including charcoal, sauce, and beer. With an average income, a family in Texas now has to spend about $300 per week on food. That's equivalent to $15,000 per year, which is about the same as tuition at a public university. Does that sound exaggerated? Nowhere. That's data from the 2025 US food market reports themselves. And the irony is, the people of Texas, once known as the beef capital of the United States, are now having to eat beef on an installment plan. And are you curious? Why did this happen? It's a domino effect of a collapsing economy. New import taxes on Mexico and China have caused feed prices to rise by 20%, fertilizer by 15%, and shipping costs to skyrocket like oil in the desert. As a result, farmers had to raise prices to survive, while buyers went into debt to eat. And while people are tightening their belts, food corporations are announcing record profits. This phenomenon is called grease inflation due to greed. The price increase isn't because costs have gone up, but because they know people will still have to buy. In Texas, BBQ was once a symbol of camaraderie. Now, it's a test of the wallet. You can say, "In God we trust," but it's your Visa card that decides whether you eat ribs or instant noodles today. A father in Houston says he still has a monthly BBQ, as a ritual to remind himself that he once lived comfortably. He laughed and whispered, "Now, a BBQ is a celebration of the card not being blocked yet." Texas is still scorching, but the biggest heat isn't from the barbecue, it's from wallets that are smoking. The question is, if even the state that once fed the entire country is starving, what is truly melting in a place dependent on imports? Let's head to Florida, where you'll see that it's not just ice cream that's flowing, and it's also the hope of an entire middle-class generation. Florida, where people once dreamed of retiring and watching the sunset. In 2025, that dream still exists. Only now the sunset is viewed through the door of an empty refrigerator. In Miami, the price of a pound of coffee increased by 15% in just 6 months. In Tampa, a can of imported tuna that used to cost is now almost $3.50. In Orlando, a loaf of white bread now costs $4, which is as expensive as a ticket to Disney parking was a few years ago. Those numbers, they sound small, but when you live on a fixed income, every single dollar becomes a nightmare. For young people, it's an inconvenience. For the elderly, it's a survival option. Florida was once likened to America's retirement paradise. But ask any grandparent in St. Petersburg today, and they'll tell you, we don't retire. We are racing against the price of food. According to 2024 data, food inflation in Florida increased by 13%, which is higher than the national average. Where does the cause lie? It's simple, because Florida relies on imports for almost all products like fish, cheese, coffee, and rice. And when Washington imposes tariffs on imports from Mexico, Europe, or South America, it's not the government that suffers. They are the elderly men and women waiting in line at Publix with bills longer than their prescription lists. A retired couple in Naples said, "We used to buy fresh vegetables. Now we only have canned goods. I used to have breakfast with eggs and milk. Now it's bread and wheat coffee." The words sounded as light as a breath, yet they contained a whole world of desperate forbearance. Local food banks are reporting a 40% increase in demand in just 2 years. The lines of people seeking food assistance stretched from Miami to Jacksonville. They are not homeless. They are people who have paid taxes their whole lives, and now they have to ask for their own money back, but in the form of canned goods. And then a paradox became clearer in the daylight. Florida has blue seas, golden sunshine, and million-dollar condos sprouting every place. Yet just a few blocks away, hundreds of seniors share meals from the church and community center. Florida's elderly used to live off the sunshine. Now they live on coupons and the kindness of their neighbors. An old man in Clearwater told reporters, "I used to dream of dying here, peacefully. Now I just hope I have enough money this month to buy medicine and a bag of apples." Florida still has waves, still has sea breeze, and still has music playing on the beach. But the real wave is rising in the refrigerator, and it's sweeping away the belief that America will always be okay. And yet, the government still calls it a temporary situation. Temporary? The people say, "We've been temporarily hungry for 2 years now." So, what do you think? Is retirement paradise still worth it when every breakfast in Florida now requires financial planning like investing in stocks? But that wasn't the most ironic part of the story. In the heart of America, Ohio, what happens when workers have to go into debt to eat? The answer isn't any more pleasant. Ohio was once the steel heart of America, where the sound of the blacksmith's hammer and the stamping machine echoed like the heartbeat of the working class. Today, the most familiar sound is the long beep at the checkout counter. According to Pew Research statistics in 2025, 41% of suburban households here had to cut spending on food. A quarter of the population admits they skip meals regularly, not because they're dieting, but because they have empty wallets. When the old steel mills in Cleveland or Youngstown closed, people said, "We'll move into the service industry." And it's true, I did change, but from making goods to serving tables, and I didn't even have enough money to order myself. Come to Ohio now, and you'll see that the roads once shrouded in industrial smoke are now lined with empty refrigerators and EBT food stamps. Major supermarket chains like Kroger and Aldi are gradually withdrawing from rural areas, leaving behind food deserts in the heart of America. Do you want to buy fresh vegetables? Drive 40 miles. Do you want to buy cheaper milk? Good luck, because gas is now more expensive than the bread you were planning to buy. In rural Ohio, there's a sad joke. If gas prices go up, I'll walk. But where do you walk when the nearest supermarket is already closed? For the people here, mobile food banks are now a familiar sight. The truck is parked in the middle of the old Walmart parking lot, distributing milk and canned goods to hundreds of people. A middle-aged woman shared, "I used to work at a bread factory. Now I'm lining up to get bread." After hearing that, you didn't know whether to laugh or stay silent. The story is truly not just about hunger. It's the feeling of being left behind. Workers' wages are increasing 3 times slower than the rate of inflation. Grocery prices increased by 12.8% in 2025 alone, while the average wage increase was less than 4%. That disparity isn't a number. It's the gap between a full dinner and a bowl of instant noodles. People in Ohio used to believe that hard work was the key to a good life. Now they only see the car keys, because they have to drive further each week just to find cheap food. And if you ask them what they believe in, the answer is usually, "I no longer believe in promises." The factories that once collapsed due to globalization. Now their meals are collapsing due to inflation, import policies, and the greed of food price gougers. An uncle in Akron said during the food distribution, "I used to make steel for America. Now I can't even afford a steel kitchen knife." However, Ohio is not hungry just because of a lack of food. It's hungry because of injustice. When an American worker has to choose between gas and a loaf of bread, you know this country has problems deeper than just economic ones. And you, what do you think? Can America be great again if the very people who built it can't even feed themselves? Notably, the story even spread to New York, where money always speaks loudest, but now it's silent at the checkout counter, and the story that's coming will make you understand why. New York, where a slice of pizza now competes with the electric bill. The saying sounds like a joke, but in Manhattan in 2025, it's stark reality. A basic cheese pizza slice is now $6, and with toppings, it's almost zero. A loaf of white bread, $4. A week's worth of groceries, just eggs, milk, vegetables, and a little meat, has hit the 0 mark. It's not a party, it's just a meal to live on. In the city once called the Empire State, the fastest growing thing is no longer the economy, it's the grocery bill. According to Nielsen IQ, grocery prices in New York increased by 12.8% in 2025, which is 3 times the average wage growth rate. An office worker earning $60,000 a year now spends nearly a quarter of their income just on food. You can live in Manhattan, but your wallet is moving to New Jersey. And no, this isn't just normal inflation, that's greedflation. Inflation driven by licensed greed. Businesses are raising prices far beyond their actual costs. Small businesses are disappearing because rent is expensive, while people are forced to buy from a monopoly supermarket. An organic apple can be more expensive than a short-distance Queens train ticket. New Yorkers are standing in long lines at Trader Joe's, looking at the price boards and whispering, "Next time, I'll only buy what I need." But what was necessary in New York is now a luxury. So they started buying food on credit. A 0 bill can turn into 50 after 20% interest if you don't pay it immediately. A woman in Brooklyn said, "I used to pay for my iPhone in installments. Now I'm paying in installments for lettuce." The saying made everyone who heard it burst out laughing, but it was a kind of laughter that got stuck in their throats. Even the stable class, those with jobs and rented homes, wasn't spared. They eat out less, switch to frozen foods, or skip breakfast. On Lexington Avenue, family restaurants close down in several locations each month. It's not because there aren't enough customers, but because customers don't have enough money left to order. New Yorkers used to pride themselves on being resilient, able to survive anything. But no one was prepared for the battle with the vegetable counter. The city never sleeps, but now it's fasting. As night falls, the lights are still on, but in many small apartments, only the loud hum of refrigerators can be heard, as empty as the economy itself. A slice of pizza still smells good, but the free flavor is fading. The question is no longer, how do I live well in New York? But rather, how do you stay a New Yorker when the city itself is slowly eating away at your dreams? And the most ironic part, while millions of Americans are starving, the United States wastes 40% of its food each year. A country with an abundance of food, but a lack of sharing ability. They call America the land of opportunity. Perhaps that's true, because nowhere else on earth is missing as many opportunities to do the right thing as here. According to the USDA, Americans waste 30–40% of the food they produce each year. That number is enough to feed the entire state of Texas twice. Meanwhile, the organization Feeding America must distribute 6 billion relief meals in 2025, the most in history. On one side, mountains of food are being wasted. On the other side, a long line of people waited to receive canned goods. Same country, the same day, just a different location. The reasons given sound reasonable: food safety regulations, shipping costs, retail standards, and supply chain management. But if we look deeper, we see a simple and bitter truth. We are not hungry because of a lack of food. We are hungry because we are too greedy. Tomatoes that are not beautiful enough are discarded. Milk that is over 24 hours old is discarded, even if it is still usable. The restaurant throws away huge amounts of food for fear of being sued if they give it to the wrong person. And the government? Discussing the anti-hunger budget, while coffee and pastries still filled the table. A man in Ohio said while waiting in line for food, "I don't want to beg. I just want the food that was thrown away last night." That saying, light, but it deepens the divide between two Americas. An America that overeats and an America that doesn't dare eat its fill. And what's more ironic, to destroy that amount of food, we need more money. Billions of dollars are spent each year on transporting, burying, and treating emissions from food waste. That's right, America pays extra to skip its own meals. The food distribution system, one of the most sophisticated networks in the world, has loopholes large enough for half the country to fall through. Giant corporations lock down supply chains, deciding what's worthy of shelves and what will sit and be discarded. Meanwhile, small churches and charities have to beg for supplies from warehouses, as if charity itself needs approval. The American dream once began with a house, a car, and a full dinner. And today, it started with an empty shopping cart and the hope that the price of milk next week will be cheaper. Perhaps we can't save the entire economy, but we can retain our humanity by living more consciously, sharing our surplus, buying from local farmers, supporting food banks, and never taking a full stomach for granted. Because when we start caring about meals again, not just our own, but those of others, we're rebuilding the true foundation of the American dream. Now I want to hear from you. Are you feeling that the cost of food is becoming an unprecedented burden? In your state, is the situation any different, better or worse than what you see in this video? Please share your story in the comments, because every story, no matter how small, helps others not feel alone. If you find this video thought-provoking, please subscribe to join us in exploring true stories about the economy, society, and people, things that the mainstream media rarely fully covers. One subscription, one comment, that's how you help the channel survive in an era where even the truth has to be paid for to be heard. This video is intended for social analysis and commentary and does not represent any political, partisan, or organizational viewpoint. All data is cited from public and reliable sources. Viewers are encouraged to verify information independently, discuss, and form their own perspectives. Thank you for staying until the end. See you in the next videos.